All right, guys. Hello. So for those of you that didn't see my last workshop, this is a follow-on to that, and there is a little bit of from that last one that's just going to start off this one, and it. Okay. Cool. So if you want to get an interview, you've got to realize what the employer wants from you. The employer wants to employ somebody who's going to contribute to his profit margins. He wants someone who's going to help him make a profit. He doesn't want to just give somebody a job. That's not what he's there for. I mean, that would be nice if we all just gave people a job because they needed a job. That's not what these employers are there for. So please don't make that mistake. They don't care about the fact that you're hungry and your family's hungry. They care about their profit margins, and that's how businesses stay in business. Is they employ people who contribute to their profit margins. So you've got to keep that in mind when you are applying for a job. So when you send your initial email with your little CV and everything involved and attached, you've got to make it look as professional as possible, so that your first impression is someone who is professional and someone who can communicate and someone who can contribute in a positive way. That's what your email is going to look like. So if your email is a very sparse email that say it's got a little CV attachment at the top and it says CV, that's what it says in the body of the email. That's not going to cut it. You've got to make it look professional, and that I basically did in the last video. I showed you how to do that, how to make it look professional, so that the guy sees it and he goes, "Well, this is actually something I'd like to look at." All right, and then he starts looking at your CV, and that's what's going to get you into the interview. I'm going to do another recorded version of that. I'm going to put it on my YouTube channel, and then you can all watch that as well. So if you missed that one, don't worry about it. You will see it. I'll put the link on the group. Okay, so communication is everything. Communication is giving somebody an idea of something. So if a guy's walking down the road with a Kaiser Chiefs soccer jersey on, he's communicating an idea, and it might be an idea that somebody likes, and it might be an idea that somebody else doesn't like. Might be an idea that an Orlando Pirates fan doesn't like. Okay, now if the guy's, for instance, walking down the street in New Zealand and he has a Kaiser Chiefs t-shirt on, and you're a Kaiser Chiefs supporter, no, there should be someone saying they don't have sound. My sound is definitely on. I can see my sound on. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. All right, fantastic. Okay, because someone was just asking on the group, are they the only one that doesn't have sound? And I think it sounds like they are. Okay, cool. All right, thanks for that. So you're walking down the street in New Zealand and you see someone with a Kaiser Chiefs jersey on. It communicates an idea, and suddenly you feel some kind of affinity for this person, and you even cross the road and you go, "Hey, how's it?" Even if you're a Orlando Pirates supporter, you'll do that because it's a fellow South African. He's communicated an idea. And he communicated an idea. Okay, so you can hear me now. He's communicated an idea that you like and you can have. And you can even sit down and have a beer or a coffee with this guy, because there's some kind of reality that you two agree on. You get what I'm saying? I'm getting to a point with this thing. So when you're going for an interview, you have to keep that in mind. You don't want to be communicating ideas that the employer or the interview is going to disagree with. So his reality is he wants to employ somebody who's going to contribute to the profit of his company, nothing else. He doesn't want to employ a person who's being a victim and feeling sorry for himself because he doesn't have a job. That's not nice. We know that. It's not nice to not have a job and be hungry, and the kids are hungry and you don't know what you're going to do next. That's not nice. But that's not the employer's problem. And you really have to realize that. So don't go into an interview thinking that you're going to make the guy feel sorry for you and he's going to give you the job. He's not. He's not going to give you the job. Let me just get someone else in here. Okay, cool. So that's the deal. So your CV that gets sent to him in an email has to communicate that you're a guy who deserves the job. You're a guy who's going to contribute to his profit margins. That's who you are. And those guys, and that's the guy who can convince the person the most that he is the person who's going to take pressure off the boss and contribute to his profits more than anybody else that he interviewed. He's the guy who's going to get the job. Not the guy who can play the best golf, not the guy who can tell the best joke or is the most fun in the interview, or you know, kids are the most hungry at home. And that isn't the guy who's going to get the job. The guy who convinces the employer that he's the guy who's going to contribute mostly to his profit margin. That's the guy who's going to get the job. All right. So now you've sent your email with your CV and somebody liked it, okay? Because you followed my instructions in the last video, which you will all see again. But you followed those, and now you've got yourself into an interview now. So this is how you're going to conduct yourself in an interview. Firstly, very important, make sure that you research the company that you're going to get the interview with thoroughly. You must know who these guys are. If there's a recruiter that sends you for the interview, question the recruiter about who's going to interview you. Check them out on the internet. Make sure you know these people. You know what projects they work on. You know who the managing director is. You know who the CEO is. You've looked at their gallery. You know these people. Because you're going to have to go in and answer questions and ask questions, not just answer questions in an interview. It is also your right to ask questions about the company, because you just don't want to go and work anywhere. These guys might be slave traders, you know. They might be slave drivers who don't pay and make their people work night and day. Okay, so you're allowed to ask questions too. All right. Sorry, I was reading my notes here. Okay, so if you can, you also research who the interviewer is. So if you know who the interviewer is, check him out on Facebook. Check him out on LinkedIn. Ask around. What's this guy like? What's the kind of things that he does? How does he speak? Is he English? Is he Afrikaans? What language does he speak? What's his background? And even what are his hobbies? If you can find that out. I know this sounds a bit odd, but if you know what this chap's hobbies are, and let's say he likes to fly model airplanes, and so you do a bit of research on model airplanes, and you drop something about model airplanes in the interview, and this guy's eyes light up, and he starts talking to you about model airplanes, and you know a little bit about model airplanes, and you're actually interested in getting into flying model airplanes. All of a sudden, there's a reality there. You and this guy, it's like the guy that you saw with the Kaiser Chiefs t-shirt on. You also are a Kaiser Chiefs supporter. Now suddenly there's a common reality, and you two can sit over a cup of coffee and have a good chat. Whereas not so easy with the guy who's wearing Orlando Pirates t-shirt. You get my drift. So now suddenly you have a common reality. You're talking about something where you have a reality which is common. That's very easy to manipulate. I'm not saying manipulate is the wrong word. It's very easy to get somebody's interest when you have the same interest as them. Okay? Also, his interest is, which you must always keep in mind, is who can make him the most profit. All right. Okay. So then the next one, make sure you know where your interview is. Make sure you have an address. You know where that interview is, and you're not going to get lost on the way there and be late for your interview. There's a specific reason why you should always be early for an interview. At least 10 minutes. 10 minutes is not too early to make it look like you're over enthusiastic about this thing. It's not late, but it gives you enough time to have a look around in the space that you're in. So you go into this office and you look at the kind of art on the walls. You get yourself feeling established there. You get yourself feeling at home there. You look at the people who are walking around the office and you start to feel more familiar with it. Rather than pitching up to an interview on the last minute, walking in, getting dragged into a boardroom, and then starting to get grilled. You've actually got time to sit down and get used to the feel of the place. Does that make sense? So it's the feel of the company. Every company has a culture, and the culture is formed by the group psychology of the employees of that company, and you can get that feel. So you get there 10 minutes early and you get that feel. You greet the receptionist with respect and with professionalism, because you'll be surprised how much influence a receptionist has on the bosses of the company. She is the first point of contact. She's the one that answers the phone of every communication that comes into that company. She's the one, or even he is the one that passes that communication along. You don't want to create a bad impression on the receptionist. You get my drift. They're very, very important people. Okay, so all right, you walk in proud and confident. I'm not talking about stupid confident, like hey bitch. We're not talking about that kind of confidence. We're just talking about you're quite happy with yourself. You're quite happy with the way you are, and you're confident and you're professional. And here's something that you must always remember with greeting someone and looking professional when you greet them, is never sit down and shake someone's hand. Always stand up. So when somebody introduces you to somebody, don't sit in the chair and go, hey, yeah, my name's Sipho, or whatever it is. My name's Nick. Don't do that. Stand up. Greet the person standing. You greet someone standing. That creates a good professional impression on the interviewer. If you're told to go and sit in a boardroom and wait for the interviewer to arrive, rather go ask the person who takes you to the boardroom which seat you should sit in. I had a very, very good candidate, a senior contracts manager, who went for an interview once, and he sat at the head of the table in the interview, waiting for the CEO, the MD, and the contracts director to enter the room. And they came in, he stayed seated, didn't stand up and greet them, and they had to sit around him. And he never got the job because of that. They actually phoned me up afterwards and said, this guy doesn't have any respect. He went in, he took the CEO's seat in the boardroom, and he never stood up when he greeted us. So those little things could lose you the job. There's actually a very nice little book called Etiquette in the Workplace. Etiquette is like an accepted behavioral pattern that you can use in the workplace. And I'll put a link for that book on the group afterwards, but it is a very good reference to being able to present a good impression on people. All right. So where are we now? All right. Always stand up. Right. All right, you look around the office of the interviewer, or even if you're in a boardroom, look around that office and see if there's something in there that you could strike up a reality with. This is extremely important in an interview. Is not only being able to answer the questions that are being asked of you, but also because people want to work with someone who's easy to get along with, right? That you might be able to answer all the questions. You did very well at varsity and you've got the right experience, but you seem like a bit of a twit because you just can't communicate with people. That you may not get the job because of that. So you've got to learn how to communicate properly and project a good impression and a good character across onto the person who's interviewing you or the people who are interviewing you, because more likely than none, you're going to be interviewed by more than one person. All right, here's another thing that you should never do in an interview is you should never lie. Never lie in an interview. Doesn't matter what it is, even if you get coaxed into the lie. A clever interviewer, this is something you've got to watch out for in an interview. A clever interviewer will trick you into lying to see what your level of honesty is. I had a candidate, a very good candidate, who went for an interview about 3 weeks ago. It was an executive position, and he knew the CEO of the company. He'd met him once in Tanzania. They'd done a job there. And in the interview, the CEO said to him, they flew him down to Cape Town after doing a few Zoom interviews with him. They flew him down to Cape Town for a face-to-face. And the CEO said to him, "Oh man, I remember that day you played golf." And he started talking about the day they played golf together. And this candidate had never played golf with him. But the candidate played along and was like, yeah, I remember that day. It was a funny day. And then the CEO was like, "This guy's a liar. We never played golf together." He didn't say that in the interview. Afterwards, he told me that. He said, "This guy lied to me. He told me he played golf with me and we never played golf together." So those little kinds of things. So if the guy says, "Hey, I remember you, we met at the blah, blah, blah," you go, "No, I don't remember. I'm very sorry. I don't remember that. Remind me some more." But don't lie, because these guys are very smart and they will trick you into lying to see what your level of honesty is. All right. Don't exaggerate your experience. This will come around and it'll be worse for you. It'll look bad on your CV. If you exaggerate in the interview, you're, yeah, I was a senior, whatever, on this project, and I was responsible for this and this and this and this, where in actual fact, you were working for the guy who was responsible for all of that stuff. And now they put you on a project that you are responsible for all of that stuff and you can't do it. And it's a small industry, this construction industry in South Africa. The word will get around and you won't be working in a decent job after that. So don't exaggerate. Rather tell them the truth. Then the interviewer knows what they're dealing with. They'll be like, we like this guy. He came in with confidence. He stood up and greeted us. He has respect. You can see this guy was well brought up. He didn't have the experience we wanted, but this is the kind of guy that we can teach. You get what I'm saying? That's what you've got to keep in mind. Never lie, never exaggerate in an interview. It will come out. You will get found out. The other thing, the one of the worst things to ever say in an interview is, "I'm a fast learner." Guys, the employer wants someone who's going to make him profit from day one. He doesn't want a fast learner. He wants someone who's already learned fast somewhere else. I know this is a sore point about how do you get experience if you can't get a job without experience. I know that's a sore point. You're going to have to hustle. That's how you're going to have to do that. But That's the gist of it. You don't lie about your experience. You need to keep that in mind. Okay. When you get asked a question in an interview, answer it as swiftly as you can. Try not to sit there thinking about it for too long. Like, answer as swiftly as you can. A swift answer indicates intelligence. And it also indicates that you know what you're talking about. Someone, if I just say to you, what's your mother's name? You would be able to answer me like, within a second. Because it's something that you know cold. If I had to ask you what high school you went to, you'd be able to answer me. If I had to ask you explain how to make a cup of coffee, you'd be able to answer me like immediately. If I had to say to you, how do you make a cup of coffee? And you said, well, yeah, well, you get a kettle, there's a kettle, and there's, what else do you need? You need some water. That doesn't sound like someone who knows how to make a cup of coffee. So when you answer your questions, answer them swiftly. This is why you need to be prepared for your interview. Make sure that you go in there, make sure that the job that you've applied for is something that you can do. Don't go into a job interview for a job that you can't do. Okay. Look the interviewer in the eye when you're talking to him. I'm not talking about stare him down or intimidating him. I mean, look him in the eye. Talk to him and look him in the face. Don't look around and, have shifty eyes. And shifty eyes indicate that someone is in fear. And everybody is, to a certain degree, fearful when they go into an interview. Let's face it, it's like going to the principal's office almost. The same kind of feeling. So, but look the person in the eyes. That's a professional outlook. Is you look the person in the eyes when you talk to them. Look them in the eyes when they talk to you and answer them swiftly. Never lie, never exaggerate. Always stand up and shake someone's hand. Never shake someone's hand while you're sitting. If there's a female interviewer, let her walk in the room first, unless she insists that you go through the door first. Then acknowledge that and go through. All of these little things count towards you getting a job. Now, what I want you to think about is, what kind of a person do you like? What kind of a person would you want looking after your kids? Let's say, think about this after this workshop. Let's say you've got a little kid and you're looking for a creche. You're looking for someone to look after your little kid. Are you going to leave your child with someone who you know is exaggerating to you or lying to you, who can't look you in the eye, very shifty, or takes their time in answering your questions about how you look after children? Like, what time do the children get fed? We feed them. You've got to look at it from that viewpoint. Like, you employ this person sitting in front of you. Would you employ you? And if you want to, drill it in front of a mirror, or drill it in front of a family member who can help you. Go through it with the family member. Let the family member ask you questions. Let them grill you on questions that you think you may be asked in this interview. I sat in on an interview once with a director from WBHO. He was interviewing a concrete foreman, and it was a very interesting interview. He didn't really ask much. He asked mostly about how this guy sets up his formwork. And he was asking about where he fills his concrete up to, what mark, and does he let it flow over the shuttering, and what kind of formwork does he use? And it was, I can't remember exactly what the formwork was that they were using, what scaffolding company they were using. And he started questioning him on that. And this guy started getting so tongue-tied. He didn't know how to answer any of the questions because he got so scared of these questions that he wasn't expecting. They were clever questions that this guy was asking him. So you've got to sit down and work out scenarios of what could be asked of you in the interview, you know, and then get someone to ask you those questions and do a whole role play. Do it like this person in front of you is an actor and he's role playing with you. And drill this interview so that when you go into the interview the next day, you know that you're confident. Rather than going in and thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know. I'm very nervous about this. I've had so many candidates that have not done what I've told them to and drilled it. I've even offered to drill with them. And they've gone in and they've lost the job because he wasn't confident enough in the interview. He could do the job. He could do the job. But he didn't look like he could do the job in the interview. Interviewers do understand that guys are nervous when they come in there. But when concrete starts pouring, for instance, you've got to be able to keep a level head. You know, that's got to keep going until all the concrete is poured. You can't stop halfway and go for coffee or go home and sleep and come back and pour more concrete. You've got to keep pouring concrete, right? So let's say you're busy pouring concrete and one of the shutters collapses. You know, how are you going to react? That all comes out in an interview. If you're getting flustered in an interview, what are you going to do if your shuttering collapses while the concrete pour is happening? You know, that's like millions of rands of damage that you're going to cause because you're not prepared. So that's the main thing that I wanted to talk about was those points. You know, get yourself into the interview with a good CV that's set up well and it's presented with a professional email. Do not put street slang in your email. Don't do any of that. Use proper grammar so that it looks professional. Make sure you dress appropriately as well. You know, this is a funny thing. If you're going to go for an interview at a consulting firm, for instance, consulting engineers or a PRQS firm, you're not going to go there in jeans and t-shirt because that's not the way they dress. And that's again, like not the same reality level as the person who's going to be interviewing you. You know, it's like you're wearing a Orlando Pirates t-shirt and he's wearing a Kaizer Chiefs t-shirt. So you go to you research the firm and you see with them, you know, what is their dress code? You can even ask the people before the interview, like, what is your dress code? Oh, we like to wear, you know, smart pants, leather shoes, and collared shirt, no tie. Okay, great. You know, make sure you shaved if you don't wear a beard, and so on. You know, if you're going to go to a contracting firm where you might even be doing the interview on site. You know, I've had guys go in for interviews with the contracting firm in shorts and work boots that are full of concrete, you know, and a t-shirt and a safety helmet. You know, so you have to dress accordingly. And dressing accordingly doesn't necessarily mean neat or scruffy. It means dress the same as the dress code of this particular company. Now, let's say, for instance, you're going for an interview for a concrete foreman. Let's say there's a concrete foreman interview, and you go there in your Sunday suit. It's a shiny blue suit with a shiny pink tie, and you've got a white shirt underneath it with a black collar, and you've got these black shiny long pointy shoes, and you go for this interview dressed like that. It's like you may get the job, you may not, but you have more chance of getting a job if you go to the interview looking like a concrete foreman. And a concrete foreman, I would say, would wear maybe a collared shirt, a pair of jeans, and a pair of work boots. That you know, and he's neat. You would like he'd done a bit of effort to go to dress up for this interview, and that's why he put a collared shirt on, because on site he'd wear a t-shirt. So you get what I'm saying. You dress for it, so that all of these factors play into your hands. And this guy looks at you and he goes, he's well-mannered, he fits into the company culture, he looks like us already, he talks like us, he looks like he'll contribute to the motion and contribute to our profit margins. He's the right age, he's got the right experience, he's got the right qualifications, he likes Kaiser Chiefs. You know, I think we should give this guy an offer. You get it. So you've got to align all these things. You can't just go for an interview, you know, catch the taxi, pitch up there 3 minutes late, you know, and try and explain it away. That's just not gonna fly. Make sure you're there early. Make sure you Google the route and how to get there and when the traffic is thick in those areas, so that you're not late for the interview. 10 minutes before. It's much easier when you've been sitting in a space for 10 minutes before the interviewer arrives and you've already gotten used to the place than to scurry into that office, put your hand up and greet the receptionist, tell her who you are. She shuffles you through to a boardroom where the guys are already sitting waiting for you to interview you. And because he's phoning you, wondering where you are. And then you go in there, you're already flustered and you lose the job. Get there 10 minutes, not 15 minutes, not 5 minutes. Get there 10 minutes before, so that you can sit in the waiting room, even strike up maybe a little bit of a conversation with the receptionist, get in her good books. And so that when you leave, she might just pass a comment saying, that's a nice young man. I'm telling you, these little things all contribute to landing that job in an interview. Okay, so I'm hoping that you guys have learned something here. I'm running out of time, but I'm going to quickly skim over what I've been through. So communication. Communication is passing an idea along to someone so that he receives it. So the idea that you want to pass along is you're a respectable person, you're not late, you can contribute to their profit margin, you fit into their culture, you're someone that they can get along with. They say they can see you working with them. You don't lie. They know exactly they know exactly what you can and can't do. They know where your weak points are and where your strong points are. Yeah, and you can answer your questions fast, so you know what you're talking about. That communicates in a whole the person that is going to be employed by the employer. But all of this boils down to, are you going to contribute to the profit margin or are you not? And the one that is going to contribute to the profit margin the most, the candidate, say they're interviewing 4 guys, the one that who do you think they're going to choose? These guys are in it for profit, remember? That's all. They don't go to work because it's fun. They're in it for the profit. So they interview 4 guys. Who are they going to choose? They're going to choose the one who's going to contribute to their profit margin the most for that particular job, obviously. You know? So keep that in mind and think with it. You know, when you go for an interview, say, okay, how can I communicate that I can contribute to their profit margin the most? It might even be something like a comment that you make during the interview. You know, like I'm always looking at the bottom line. I'm always looking at where we can make more money and save more money. That's what I want to do on the job. You know, if there's scaffolding lying around behind the shed that we're not using it, we send it back to the scaffolding supplier, because otherwise we're paying daily for that. I hate to see plants standing on a site because we're paying for that. You know, I like to keep a site nice and tidy. I like to keep all the piping, all the electrical stuff. I like to keep it nice and tidy. I don't like it lying around on the floor. Everything's got to be tidy. That's just me. You know, that's just me. This guy's sitting there going, yeah, I like a tidy site too, because a tidy site is an indicator of a profitable site. So there's all these little things that you can just slip in. You know, you might see on the guy's wall is a picture of a I don't know, a motorcycle. And you go, wow, you know, it's a nice motorcycle. Do you ride motorcycles? Yeah, I ride motorcycles. Oh man, I'd love to get a motorcycle. I haven't got one, but I love motorcycles. And then now you've got a conversation going. Now this guy likes you because you like motorcycles. I like motorcycles. You know, it's not like, oh, motorcycles, man. Motorcycles will kill you, man. Motorcycles will kill you. That guy is going to be like, yeah, we're not going to work with this guy. He thinks motorcycles kill you, and I love motorcycles. So these are all the things that you've got to keep in mind, and I hope this helped you. It's you know, it's a skill to get interviewed and get a job. It's not just, you know, you deserve it and blah blah. It's a skill. You've got to have the skill to do it, to make it, to get this job. And these are the soft skills that I'm teaching you right here. If you want to, after this Zoom, you know, WhatsApp me, and then I can. There are some free courses that you get on the internet, which are very good, show you how to achieve goals, show you how to organize. They teach you about communication. There's a lot of these courses that are free on the internet, and they're very practical and commonsensical courses. So if you'd like more information about those, I can give it to you, and you can go and do them. They'll take you like an evening. They're very simple, but very powerful information. I've done lots and lots of these courses in the past, and I found that they are very effective. So, okay, guys, I don't want to keep hopping on. I think I've gone over everything that I wanted to talk about. Let me see if there's something else here. Yeah, so like I said, I'm going to put a link to that book, the ebook called Etiquette in the Workplace. And it basically sets you up to be able to know how to treat another person with respect. Once you can do that, it's a lot easier to get things out of others. You know, I'm always friendly to people, because I know that when I'm friendly to people, people are friendly back, and I get way more done when people are friendly to me than when people don't like me. If I go to a building where it is impossible for me to get in, I'm very friendly to the security guy, and he normally lets me in. I got less than a minute left, guys. I'm going to get cut off here. So thank you very much for listening. I'd like to hear your feedback on the group. Please put your feedback on the group. I have recorded this, so you can watch it again if you like. If you have any questions, please fire them at me. Thanks for listening. I hope you learned something.